talking.
Hi. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Well, welcome to today's Lunch and Learn, celebrating Character Community Week. This is my second opportunity to introduce our speaker to Character Community Lunch and Learn, and it's always a pleasure. I've had a long and strong affiliation with the Character Community exercise here in York Region, and proudly continue that. The Character Community Foundation, of course, raises awareness and educates us on character development within our community. Their philosophy is when people in communities embrace living with character, we can change the world we live in for the better. There's certainly nothing wrong with that. It emphasizes the reason why character is important, because it creates positive change. This week in particular recognizes the volunteers and leaders within York Region that make our community a desirable place to live, learn, work, and play. We also celebrate this week to raise awareness and educate the community on character development and what it means for York Region to have character. Character can be as simple as getting to know your neighbor, helping them with little tasks that they can't help themselves with. As it snows in the next few months, as it invariably will, we've been pretty lucky right through the end of October, but the weather will turn. The simple act of helping your elderly neighbor shovel a little snow, clear the driveway, help them in stormy circumstances if and when they can't get out. Just little things that we do to make our communities what they are, attractive, livable communities. Small gestures like that contribute to a large picture by creating a community that people enjoy living in, with residents that are fully engaged. Many of us at York Region started working in the public sector because we experienced something that ignited a sense of passion within the community. There's more than just a paycheck to working in any municipality, and York Region is certainly no exception. The Character Community Foundation takes the same passion for community development and encourages others to do the same. At York Region, we practice the 11 recognized attributes of a character community. And of course, there are many more than 11. 11 was a handy number that fit into a monthly decree at the time that the organization was started, but I've often thought what a nice challenge it would be in a world where we're continually bombarded by the worst possible news from every corner of the planet to spend some time thinking of the good things, the good character attributes, the good events within our communities, and start writing them down. And hopefully we'd run out of paper before we ran out of content. We've demonstrated our compassion through fundraising efforts for the United Way and participated in countless community events. Our emergency response individuals show courage every day through their service to York Region and their devotion to helping others. It's my pleasure today to introduce Superintendent Pettersen as one of those people in our emergency services who's contributed significantly over the years to our communities. Paul has been a member of York Regional Police since 1980. If you ask him, he may have a story behind why he joined the police force. In fact, you may hear some of that today. More importantly, why he dedicated his career to the betterment of our communities here in York Region. Paul's a chairperson for the Youth Committee and vice chair of the Community Policing Committee of the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police. Superintendent Pedersen is an example of how character comes from the people that live in York Region. It's that individual character through simple, everyday actions that make our communities what they are. Please join me and welcome Superintendent Paul Pedersen.
Well, thank you very much for those kind words, Bruce. I can honestly say the Character Foundation would be nowhere without the support of leaders like yourself, the region, all the people that work for the region. It really is a great honor to call ourselves partners and to be working together on things like this. Thank you very much, Bruce. When I was asked here today to talk, I kind of, hey, there's front row seats available. That's what you get for being late, right? My mind went to, where can I draw the link between my occupation, clearly by the clothes I'm wearing policing, and character, and what is the link in that? I'll also be candid, my mind went to free pizza, and I said, sure. And so I think, you know, as Mr. McGregor has suggested, this is really a fantastic place to live, work, and play. Like York Region, if we don't know how good we've got it, we really should be patting ourselves on the back day in and day out. From a crime perspective, last year our crime rate dropped by 6.8%. You know, so depending, you know, what headlines you're reading, you might be thinking, oh geez, the world is becoming less and less safe. In York Region, it's becoming more and more safe. Again, speaking specifically about crime, we had the lowest crimes against persons rate. So those are those violent crimes, the crimes that happen against people, and the lowest property crime rate, the crimes that happen in our the places that we work and the places that we live and the things that we own. And total lowest criminal code rate among all major Canadian municipalities. So we're the safest. We also have the highest clearance rate. What that means to us is solve rate. So the crime that does happen in York Region, we solve it at the highest rate of any comparable police services in Canada. So, you know, our crime rate is low, and when crime does happen, we solve it quickly. Those are fantastic stats. And I ask myself, I really do ask myself, why are we so successful? Can the police stand up and take credit for that exclusively? And of course, I have to be honest and say, I can't say that, you know, it's because of the police. But I have to say it's because of maybe the interaction of the police, the communities we serve, the people that live and work here, and of course everybody here in this room. I also think that crime prevention must work. And then when I think about crime prevention, that's one of those elusive things. How do you measure something that didn't happen? How do you measure that you prevented crime? And then we start asking a little bit more about, so if crime prevention works, where should we as a police service start focusing our efforts? Where are we going to get our bang for the buck? And so again comes more questions, like, you know, why do people commit crimes? And then the next question beyond that is, maybe more importantly, why do people not commit crimes? Why do we choose not to commit crimes? Is there a choice in this or not? Something else you hear a lot about, maybe not in this fashion, but it's called the Deterrence Theory. You hear it about the law and order platforms just going through a municipal election, not so much of the focus, but certainly provincially and federally, those are platforms. And you know, again, the clothes I wear, you got to imagine that I support law and order platforms. But at the same point in time, that deterrence theory, to what extent does that work? To what extent does the fear of getting caught stop people from committing crimes? And then when you look at it, the states or countries that have the death penalty, are they safer than we are? And you know what the answer is? No. I mean, no. Would you rather live in York Region or Detroit, right? Well, I don't think Michigan has the death penalty. You know, and I guess there's no greater deterrence in the thought of deterring somebody from doing that than the threat of death. So you would think that that death penalty deterrence theory would be the absolute best, and actually it isn't. Deterrence theory requires 3 elements to be most effective. This is kind of neat stuff when we're thinking about police and how do we allocate our resources. For the deterrence theory to be most effective, there has to be certainty. Certain that the person committing the crime is going to be caught. They have to be reasonably certain, oh geez, I'm going to get caught if I do it. There has to be swiftness of action and resolution. So it can't be, I commit the crime here and I get caught a year down the road. It has to be, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get caught pretty recently in connection with the crime. And then severity, but it's punishment that's severe in proportion to the crime committed. So speaking about deterrence theory, we think about it, and it does work for some things, right? Like it works for accessible parking. Right? Hardly anybody parks in an accessible parking lot. Why? I'm pretty sure I'm going to get caught. It's going to happen right away, and if you've got one of those tickets, they're expensive, right? So there's some severity. It works for, we saw it when we had photo radar, our speed slowed down and stuff like that. But then now we start getting into this character question. Does it work for all crimes? Does it work if you're getting a deal on a TV set that seems just too good to be true? Or does it work if you think maybe I can cheat on my taxes? And I'm not asking for confessions here. I'm just sort of talking about deterrence. So then you think about, well, why did we choose crime-free life? And was it that we were afraid of the cops? Were we afraid the police were going to get us? Or were we afraid that our parents were going to catch us? Or is it something a little bit beneath that simply is about right versus wrong? How was it that we resisted temptation, and what did we use? What did we use as our moral core to help us navigate through those temptations that everybody faces on a regular basis? So one of the things I'm really proud of is the organization that I work for, York Regional Police, because we are leaders in so many areas, leaders in the areas certainly of working with youth. Karen, last night we were at YMCA, employer appreciation event, and I'm being approached by people from downtown Toronto that are hearing about the great work York Regional Police is doing with young people up here. We're leaders with respect to prevention. When you hear Chief Armin Labarge speak, if you get that opportunity, he talks about York Regional Police as the best crime prevention law enforcement agency, puts that crime prevention piece first. And we've been the recipients of so many individual and group awards. Bud Night. It's the pizza. It's the beer goes with the pizza. Bud Night award from the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police for youth officers. We've won that 3 years running. We've won community policing awards, community mobilization awards, victim assistance awards. We've even won what we call the Stanley Cup of Awards, the Weber Seavey International Association of Chiefs of Police Award for our guns and games strategy. And I'm not even talking about the awards that we've won for traffic safety and diversity. And then, so what is our secret? Why is York Regional Police and why are our officers and our people so successful? And I think it's because everything we do looks at prevention first. When I talk about guns and gangs, because that's one of the areas that I work in, I say we're uniquely positioned in York Region compared to Toronto in that we haven't lost our streets. So we don't have to take back our streets. We don't have to put such an effort, not that we don't have to put any effort, but we don't have to put such an effort into that enforcement suppression piece that maybe Toronto has to get people out of gangs. We can invest right now in stopping them from getting into gangs in the first place. And that prevention piece in our mind all starts first with an individual choice. And then that choice grows to family choices, it grows to then neighborhood choices, the greater community, the municipality. It extends to the province, the country, even the world. And it starts from an understanding that, proper door locks, proper lighting, alarm systems, those types of target hardening prevention measures are only part of the crime prevention equation. We can't live by hiding behind bars and hiding behind locked doors, right? Nobody wants that kind of life. So when we dig down to the roots of crime, we have to look at those risk factors. We have to look at those things that contribute to crime, things like poverty, Things like literacy, poor family connections, poor community connections, abuse within the family, witnessed abuse, and negative peer influences. Those are the things that place people at risk of becoming criminals. But one of the most interesting things about crime is that even if a person is born to all of those risk factors, they can still overcome the pull of crime. Not every poor kid born to a broken family is going to be a criminal. There are protective factors that fight against those pulls of crime, and that's back to where I started with this. Why are we so safe up here? It's those things that really make the difference. And the most common protective factors that we talk about are things like volunteerism, attachment to schools, attachment to the community, strong family bonds. And family bonds where there's a comfortable extension or expression of love. Kids can see happiness, positive peers and positive peer influences. And now what I'm going to suggest is all of those protective factors have their roots in these character attributes. Every protective factor that I've just talked about, we can see in these attributes. Our moral core, the moral core that I've talked about in the beginning, is developed primarily in three ways. It's self-control, and that's that ability for each of us to stop and think first before acting. Empathy, that ability to ask, how would I feel in another person's place? And conscience, that simple thing about, is this right or is this wrong? And the ability to differentiate, that's that moral core. And where does that moral core compass come from? It comes from learning these attributes. Now, I asked and made sure that we've all got this card on our desk, or on our chair, pardon me. So I won't read through it, but if you just look at the attributes, things like compassion, I will do whatever is necessary to heal the hurt of others. I will strive to understand and be sensitive to their feelings. You look at things like respect. I will treat myself and others with consideration, high regard and dignity, responsibility. I'll be accountable for my actions. When you look at those attributes and the explanations of each, it really sounds simple, that if you simply follow these rules, then everything gets fixed, right? Then there is no crime, we're all safe, and the reality is we know it takes a lot of hard work to follow these rules. It takes education, and education at early ages, especially in the very early ages. One of the things we say, and it's kind of one of those catchy little phrases, is we have to fight crime in the high chair, not the electric chair. So that decision, that choice, these choices that we've all made through our lives to steer out of crime and stay on the right side are choices that come very early on. And at York Regional Police, all of our lessons, and we're connected to the schools very well, use the character attributes at their base. I talk very proudly of the fact that we have what's called a whole schools approach. Our connection to schools in York Region starts formally at grade 1, and we have classes grade 1 through 5 out at the Safety Village. How many of you have been to that community safety village? Lots. Good. Were you out for the Halloween event? Here was mobbed. I wasn't there. 5,000 people. But so in 35,000 kids go through that safety village every year. And we do classes from grade 1 to 5, and we teach road safety, bicycle safety, fire safety, and internet safety. Our grade 6 through 8 program is values, influences, and peers. That's done obviously in the elementary levels. And then our school resource officer program takes from grade 9 to 12 and has a whole bunch of lessons and programs, empowered student partnerships connected with that. You see in the headlines that Toronto assigned 25 officers to 25 schools. I think it was 2 years ago. Because I know when I was talking to Bill Blair, he says, yeah, we're going to do it, Paul, we're going to do it. You know when that program started in York Region? 1991. Talk about being ahead of the curve, right? And in our lessons, so what do we talk about in those lessons? We don't simply tell a child, wear your helmet because it's the law. We tell them to wear it because it represents responsibility. I will be accountable for my actions. And things like respect. I will treat myself and others with a high regard, with consideration, a high regard for dignity. Those types of lessons is why you're making that choice. Because we believe if we use these character attributes as the building blocks, then when they get a little older and start facing those other choices of, should I join a gang? Shouldn't I join a gang? Should I steal? Shouldn't I steal? Should I smoke? Should I smoke drugs? The same decision-making building blocks are going to help them to decide this is the way I should go or that's the way I should go. Internet safety, for example, when we talk about hurtful messages, and this is something that is growing at a very rapid rate, that cyberbullying, and I could do a 20-minute session just on that alone. Just to digress for a second, it has a lot to do with the feeling of anonymity and the ability to hide behind a keyboard and say something that you wouldn't necessarily say to somebody's face. But so now when we're talking about that, what do we talk about? We talk about integrity. We talk about courage. And we talk about fairness. And these are the kinds of attributes that we try and tease out in a lesson that doesn't simply just say, don't do this, but do that. We come from a choices and consequences perspective. If you choose crime, here's the consequences. If you choose character, here's the benefits. Those are the things that we're doing. We've got 4 full weeks, and we're growing to 5 weeks next year, of summer camp out at the Community Safety Village. And they're broken into 2 different types of camps. One is a leadership camp, and in the leadership camp, we focus on leadership attributes such as initiative and courage, those types of things. At another camp, it's an opportunities camp, and that's for those kids that don't ordinarily get the opportunity to be part of a camp of any kind, let alone a camp with police. And there we talk a lot about honesty and inclusivity. And we pride ourselves on our community policing initiatives because we do, as we say, recognize that we can't do it alone. So we've developed a program called Keeping York Region Safe Together, and this is a strategy that really does suggest community safety as a shared responsibility. Programs such as Neighborhood Watch, Road Watch, Business Watch, I don't know if you've heard about them, Park Ambassadors programs in many of our municipalities. All of these programs, and so many more, require real significant contributions from the community for their success. We can't do it, we can't drive it. It's up to all of you to do it. Each of them are better when the community is actively involved in crime prevention, and that means anything from community barbecues to sharing information about alarms and sharing information about suspicious people on your street. CPTED, I don't know if you know that term, crime prevention through environmental design. That's that target hardening things. Simple things like trimming your bushes, the low bushes, so that they're no higher than 3 feet, and your high trees so that the branches are no lower than 7 feet. That opens up a 4-foot window of visibility so that if somebody is at your front door trying to break in and somebody else is driving by the street, they can see through. They call it natural surveillance, but it's all about, are you going to break into somebody's house in front of everybody? No, you're going to try and do it where you can't be seen. So those are the types of things. In variety stores, you see this so much, the variety store windows littered with those calling card posters, right? You know those ones. Again, talking from natural surveillance, crime prevention strategies say take down everything in front of the window, move the cash registers and the counters up to the front, so again, everybody can see what's going on, improve your lighting, improve the video in the stores and all of that thing. But these things that I've just mentioned here, simple little things, they only work if the people that we give those recommendations to act on it. And that sounds a lot like initiative and responsibility, right? Again, character attributes coming through. Talk about parenting. I came up here and there's a PowerPoint presentation about parenting. I guess there were some sessions going on here about that. But we talk about parenting, and I, again, through the youth programs, get involved in that. And, you know, often we hear there's a crisis in youth today, right? How many people have heard kids nowadays, right? When I do a youth presentation, I pull up a quote, one of those kids nowadays have no respect for authority, and I pull that from like Plato in like whatever it is, 1 BC or something like that. So, you know, we've been griping about kids forever. So you know, is there a crisis with our youth today? I'm going to suggest maybe there's a crisis in parenting today. Maybe we need to talk a little bit about that, and there are tons of studies about parenting, and when you look at all of them, there's no one clear single silver bullet solution that guarantees success. However, one constant over and above the rest seems to show the most promise. You know what that is? The ability to say no. The ability for parents to draw reasonable parameters and then stick to those parameters. So how often do we see parents arguing with school teachers about who's right and who's wrong, or police? I mean, I hear it all the time. An officer says, bring a child home to their parent to say they were caught with their hand in the cookie jar, for lack of a better term, and the parents start talking about how they're paying our salaries and haven't we got something better to do? Well, it happens, you know. Because, you know, their little angel will never do wrong, right? And you know what? It takes courage. It takes courage on the part of a parent to say no. To say no when other parents are saying yes. To say no when, you know, those boundaries are being challenged by everything you see on TV, right? It's not, right? Parenting's not easy. But the reality is, those boundaries established early and enforced with fairness and compassion, more character attributes, seem to be the very thing that keeps our children out of trouble and, more importantly, out of danger, right? So anyway, in conclusion, because I was only asked for 20 minutes here. And I didn't eat pizza first, so I'm getting hungry. We really do have so much to be proud of here. You know, York Region is the envy of just about every other municipality. Our police service, as an extension of the region, is statistically one of the best anywhere. And we owe that success to our community partners, including our partners in the Character Foundation. I'm certainly proud of the work I do with York Regional Police, but I'm also proud of the work that I do with the Character Community Foundation of York Region. You know, the Beatles said, all you need is love. I'm going to get corny and say, all you really need is character. Thank you very much.
I'd like to just take a quick moment to say thank you to Paul and to Bruce for looking after us today. I'm Karen Addison. I'm the Executive Director of the Character Community Foundation. We're thrilled to have the involvement of the region and of York Regional Police and the activities that we do. As Paul said, we partnered with the police in a lot of our Character Week activities. We did a wonderful youth forum yesterday over in Stouffville where 40 students from the schools in Markham and Stouffville came out and spent 5 hours with us. We had a panel of people from our council and from the schools that talked about different aspects of what had challenged them in their life and how they had overcome it and how it led back into the whole character attributes, and we did some exercises with them, and it was just a wonderful youth engagement opportunity as well. So we appreciate everything that the people at the region do. We're glad that you've come out with us today, and again, I'd like to thank Bruce and Paul for helping us out today.
Yes, Mike, and then you talk to the